Alright, and let's go and get started. Howdy, howdy, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sharkinbear, and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. As you can tell right now, we are playing the First Descendant. This is a game that I've spent a lot of time with over the last weekend. I have about 42 hours into the game, and I'm going to do something a little bit different than we usually do in our normal videos, which I'm basically going to be telling you a little bit about my experience with this game. So that way you can have an informative decision about if this is something you want to play in the future. Now, of course, there are a whole bunch of guides out there basically talking about microtransactions and all that, this, that, and the other. However, one of the things I feel like is kind of glossed over in the sense that I don't feel like it's talked about nearly as much is if this game is solo player friendly. And as someone who actively plays a lot of multiplayer games as a solo player, I feel like I've played quite a bit of it, enough for me to get pretty much an idea of whether or not this is the type of game that you want to jump into and check out for yourself. So that being said, if you like the content, you want to see more videos like this here on the channel, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, because it really helps me out. As always, I hope everyone is having a great day, and let's jump into it. So again, like I said, I've put about 42 hours into the game as of right now. I completed the normal mode playthrough. I would say, honestly, it probably took me closer to 35 hours to get through the story, but I did stop to grind a couple things, so it might have been a little bit less. I'm going to say between 30 to 40 hours is what you can probably expect from the game as far as getting through the story. There was a lot of minimal grind for me on that front, but we're going to talk about that right now. So first off, I'm going to talk about, again, all of this is on a solo player front. If you've got friends, I'm sure a lot of this will be made faster, but again, keep in mind, solo player, so let's get into it. So right now, first off, I'm going to talk about the campaign, what that's like, structure-wise, what can you expect. So one of the things I will say right out of the gate is the game is a very monotonous game, and since there really isn't a lot of different mission structure to it. Really, the quests can be broken down into four major type of quests. You will find that you will have basically kill quests where you essentially roam from point to point to kill enemies. There are quests where you'll have to hold down an objective and basically defend it. You will find there are quests that require you to escort a robot and basically defend points from that. There's also retrieval quests where enemies die and you have to collect certain parts of them and deposit them into a machine. And then, okay, I'll go ahead and throw in, there's probably 2 or 3 more different quest types. Another one will actually have you do some platforming and collecting samples that float in the air. Just think of them like Mario coins that scatter around a level. You gotta basically beat the timer and collect as many coins as you can, or collect the certain amount of coins you can, and then deliver them to spawn. So there's really maybe like 6 to 7 different types of ways to complete these sort of quests. It is a very high action game, so you'll find the firefights and stuff like that to be everywhere. So it's really kind of hard to differentiate yourself in a shooter like this, because obviously all those quests can be broken down to the sense that other than the one where you're just collecting samples, you're just going to be shooting a lot of stuff. That being said, even with the monotony in the quests, the gunplay is actually really solid. All the characters that I've tried so far have been all fairly fun to play as. I'm currently showcasing one right here in front of you. This is Freyna. She is a poison expert, and she has skills revolving around her poisoning enemies and spreading that poison to other enemies. That really kind of vibes with me and what I like to play, because I really like poison as an element in games, so absolutely loved her from the get-go. But that being said, mission-wise, basically you have a map. Each of these 9 maps that are given with us, I actually say 9, but there's 8. Albion is actually your home front. That's basically our headquarters right now. But we have Kingston, Sterile Lands, Vespers, Echo Swamps, Agna Desert, White Knight Gulch, Hagios, and Fortress. I say them in the order because that is the order in which you go to these. Each area is basically separated into zones. So if I go to Kingston, which is the very first zone you go to, or area you go to, and it's going to be separated into 3 zones. You'll start over here in the Destruction. From the Destruction, you'll work your way over to the Fallen Theater, and the Fallen Theater goes over into the Grand Square. You will find that every single map that you go to is broken up into these same type of zones. So if I were to go over to Sterile Lands, or sorry, that's the Fortress. If I go to Sterile Lands, you'll notice there's the same kind of thing. You're going to start in one map, and then you're basically going to do all the quests in this area, transition to the next one, do the quest in that area, transition to the next one, do all that, and transition to the next one, and then so on and so forth until you clean out all those areas. Each zone is roughly separated into 4 or 5 major quests in theirs. Those are indicated by these little flags right here. They'll say Battlefield Mission. They are basically like patrols from Destiny. If you're familiar with patrols, basically you'll find a little beacon, you'll click on it, it'll give you the mission in real time, you'll go do that mission there. Other than that, you're really not going to see a lot of enemies about. The worlds are fairly empty until you activate these, and that's kind of what causes the enemies to spawn in for the missions you do around. That being said, probably one of my favorite facets of the game is because of the fact that everybody else is doing it, and there's just like public events, essentially, from Destiny. You're going to find that there are probably usually 2 to 3 other people in this area doing quests with you. So if you decide to activate a quest that's already being taken on, you will jump into a quest with those random people that are in that lobby, and you can basically tackle them together. And I found that it was very awesome and friendly because you didn't need to know any of these people or whatever. You were there for a mutual objective, which really amounts to killing this, protecting that, collecting this, depositing that, and rinsing and repeating, and for each zone. And you can make friends that way if you want, but I feel as somebody like myself who often jumps into multiplayer games as a single player and just matchmake with that, the fact that it just openly matchmakes you with other people really helps to basically fasten the pace of this, because it's that sense of silent camaraderie you get from like other people who are doing the exact same quests. And the quests aren't very difficult to figure out, so you're never going to really feel like you're stumped. So I really like that front. So after you've completed all the missions in a zone, you'll then be tasked with one of 2 options. You'll either be tasked with moving on to the next zone, or sorry, 3 options, or moving on to Albion, which is your headquarters, and to talk to the NPCs, and then they'll tell you to go on to the next zone, or they'll have you do an operation. Operation is indicated by, doesn't look like we have any. Oh yeah, right here. Operation is indicated by this little circle right here with the parentheses around it. These operations right here will basically be your dungeons, and there's usually 2 to 3 in each area. So if I actually go, the game is actually running like crap right now today. I don't understand why. Usually I have a pretty solid 50 to 60 frames, but I guess there's an update or something in my settings changed, so I do apologize about that in advance. I don't know why, but I haven't gotten above 30 FPS since I logged in, so I'm definitely going to check the settings. But over here, this little thing is basically allows you to look at all your operations of the game. If I go over here and click on normal, you can see right here, this is the number of dungeons that are currently active in the game. So there are a plenty good amount of dungeons to do. Now the cool thing is, whenever you get to a point where you have to do a dungeon, you can choose to either actively join in an operation that is in private mode or in public mode. I find public to be very fun because it makes you with a group, and then you can go do that dungeon, and then once you've done the dungeon, you can go upon your way and do whatever your business, break up the party, and do whatever. I find this dungeon to be rather fun. Some of the bosses are a little bit lackluster because there's one mechanic that I think a lot of people are finding very divisive, and that is the sense that some of these bosses, whenever you push them into another phase, will have some orbs pop up above their head, and these orbs don't seem to have a way to tell what type of orbs they are. And what I say is what I mean by that is that some orbs, they're usually about 3 to 4 that pop above an enemy, will just say, hey, destroy all these orbs, and then you'll push into the next phase. Some orbs will say, or be like, you have to destroy them in a certain order in order to push them into the next phase. Another set of orbs may say that you have to destroy the orbs all together within 10 seconds of each other. And another set of orbs, which is the easiest set, will essentially, some of the orbs will go invulnerable, and they'll have like a little shield around them telling you that they're invulnerable, while another set will be vulnerable and you can attack those, and then they'll just trade shields until they're all dead. The hard problem with that is you don't know what set of orbs you're getting other than the ones with the shields on them until you destroy a pair and it resets on its own, and you kind of have to do a guessing game about what set you have. It's kind of a terrible design choice, honestly, and way too many bosses have this mechanic around there. Again, this is not really something on a solo front, but this is just saying that there are some heartaches with doing the dungeons in general, because a lot of people will find these shields or these orbs kind of feel like it's a bug, but it's not. So that's something to keep in mind. Other than that, the dungeons in themselves, and the layout and the complexity of the way they're pretty varied, and the gunfights in there are very intense, and they're just fun overall. The bosses just being a low point for a lot of these. So other than that, that's your campaign. Once you've done all the operations, once you've done the quest, you'll come back to Albion. After that, and then you'll have a guy tell you to do one of the major bosses in the game. So the bosses in the game are called Intercept battles. And sorry again for the game running like ass right now. But this guy named Seneca over here will be the guy you talk to. Seneca will allow you to do void intercept battles, and then I'll pit you against one of the 8 major bosses at various areas. Every time you complete a major area, you will then be opened up to fight one of these. So the first one you fight is Gravewalker. Then after you complete Kingston, you'll be tasked with fighting off the Stunning Beauty, or not. After you do the Sterile Lands, that's where she fights. Stunning Beauty, then the Executioner, Dead Bride, and so on and so forth. These are epic battles, fighting titans that literally stand 50 feet tall, and they're pretty awesome. They all are fought in like an arena state, and more or less, they're the only areas where really you are put to any sort of metric. It's going to ask that you upgrade your characters a little bit, your weapons of that, and make sure they're to par. But otherwise, they're not too difficult. Again, as a free-to-play player, someone who hasn't invested any money on it, I do say that I did buy the Battle Pass. But honestly, there really aren't any conveniences in the Battle Pass other than some items for upgrade that I haven't even touched on, really. The best upgrade that you got that I have so far actually came from servers being down one day, and they actually gave us free upgrades for gold gain and Descendant XP and weapon proficiency and stuff. That alone has been what's carried me through it. But other than that, I haven't spent any money on champions or gear or items, anything like that. Everything I've got was earned by just me naturally playing the game. And I did that all the way through the normal campaign. Once you've completed the entire campaign, once you've completed all the intercept bosses, you're then offered to go into hard mode. And that being said, again, I didn't spend any money other than the battle pass, which again is purely cosmetic. I'll show you the cosmetics pass right here. I only made it to level, what was it, 32, 31, 30, 29. And I honestly only made it to season pass level 17 because of the fact that once you beat the final quest of it, they give you like 30,000 XP. And I went from level 17 all the way up to level 30 instantly. And some of this is, most of the stuff is like emotes and weapon proficiency and stuff like that. There's some premium currency in here, which I have not spent. I've basically held on to it. And then you have skins. None of this is like pay to win stuff. And a lot of this stuff, like these precision phase exchangers, these basically help you to upgrade some of your weapons. Like if you like a favorite weapon, you can use this to make it your current level by sacrificing another weapon. This you can actually make in-game fairly cheap very early on, and it only takes 10 minutes of real-life time to pass in order for one of these to be built. So honestly, I would say that a lot of this stuff that seems pay-to-win like that is very easily obtainable with spending $0, period, which is exactly what I did. But weapon-wise, I also feel like I had quite a bit of good weapon luck. A lot of your legendary weapons come in parts, and you have to find them and then research them. That is time consuming. It takes about 4 hours once you find all the parts for a weapon to be made. As far as characters goes, it takes about 16 hours for some characters, even longer. So Freyna herself, whenever I got her stuff in like doing missions, you can find parts of characters, put them together in a research, and then you have to wait 16 real life hours in order for Freyna to become playable. Some people can pay for convenience and have her timer sped up. I did not. I chose to wait exactly 16 hours for her to become playable. I went to sleep, went and saw a movie or whatever, came back, and she was playable. Other than that, I didn't have to spend money on upgrading. Cooper shards over here are your currency for upgrading your guns as well as your gear. All of this was obtainable just by playing the game naturally. I didn't find that I ever had a farm for this. I more or less banked these and never used them unless I really felt that I needed to. Cooper shards are meant to upgrade certain facets to your guns. So every time you get a gun, you then click on the symbol right here and you'll have this thing. It's called modules. Modules is where you're going to spend a lot of your upgrade potential. So as you can see right here, you'll see these little slots next to this picture right here. These are your module slots. So by default, this costs, for instance, hit rate insight costs 4 module points. Over here is my module capacity. As you can see right here, I have 75 capacity on this one. If I wanted to increase this, I could take this over to a vendor and spend Cooper shards and money in order to upgrade this. Every time I upgrade this, the capacity of the cost of this is 4, but every time I upgrade it, it'd increase by 1. So the next level would increase by 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on until I max this out. Getting inherently more expensive with Cooper shards and currency. So you definitely want to make sure that you pick and choose which ones you level, because you're never going to have enough in the early days to really enhance everything. So you got to be kind of cognizant of that. I chose to look at more defensive options because some of the void bosses that you fight require that you have certain resistances. So I chose to focus on my resistances and then my guns as a backup when I hit extra currency. But again, I want to stress, I made it through all the campaign, the final boss, and all the void bosses without having to spend any real life money. I also match made with all of my parties fairly seamlessly, never got stuck on anything. It just requires time and patience. Again, it took me about 40 hours to get through the story. It wasn't that bad. Matter of fact, it was pretty fun. Gunplay wise. Is it the best game ever? It's not, but it definitely scratches the itch for those people who want to play a looter shooter. So that is a lot of the pros I would say about the solo play. It's pretty good as far as going through all the normal mode. That being said, are there cons to this game? There absolutely are 100% cons to this game. The biggest thing I would probably say for me personally is that at no point did I ever feel really invested in the story. I just wanted to shoot the next thing. And that says a lot about the game on a shooting standpoint, is that the shooting is really fun and will carry you through the game if you find a character that you like. You can choose to spend money on characters. I chose not to, and that being said, after 40 hours, I still only had access to 3 characters. Your starter character, another character named Bunny, who's very popular, who's basically given to you for free, and then I farmed for Freyna, who took very little amount of time, but the other characters do take quite a bit of time, and that's kind of a turnoff for me, because the amount of time I can put into this, I just feel like isn't worth it. And buying them with money outright is just kind of not in the cards for me, just because I feel like the monetization is super egregious here. But to each his own. If you feel like it's worth it, you enjoy the game enough, I'm all for it. That being said, we're not going to talk about microtransactions from here on out. Everybody's already talking about microtransactions. I want to know what it's like after you beat the game. Is it continued to be something you'd want to play as a solo player? The answer for you is a little hard to swallow if you were enjoying the normal mode. I will say honestly that I found going into the hard mode of this game to be kind of a problem. And what I mean by that is whenever you get to hard mode, you basically get to do all the story missions all over again if you want. Instead though, you can tackle this in any order. So if I go over to my map over here, world difficulty, and then I click on hard mode, I can hit apply. And instead of going to Kingston, and then from Kingston to Stair Islands to Vespers to Echo Swamp, and this, that, and the other, you're allowed to pretty much go to any region you want. Now, by the time I hit the end game, I already had max level weapons, which is level 100, but there's still some grinding to do to get the best modules for this, that, and the other. But that also means that all these areas at max level are also the same level. So if I go to Kingston right here, you'll notice that whenever I hover a mission, it says the monster level here will be level 100. Well, if I go back to hard mode again, and I go to Vespers, you'll also notice that all these missions say level 100. The only difference is that the items that are dropped as rewards from these missions that you can repeat over and over again will be different than the ones you get normal mode. And some items are only obtainable from drops in the hard mode missions, so that's what you're going to want to do is grind some of these missions on hard mode. That being said, if there's something that's needed to be done in a multiplayer sense or like a dungeon sense, the biggest thing that I don't like is that you can no longer do them cooperatively in a matchmaking sense. Now, I don't know if you can do them cooperatively with a friend you're already partying up with. I'm sure you probably can. But if I were to go into, normally if I go into Infiltration Operation Normal, I can matchmake with randoms. If I go and do Infiltration Operation Hard Mode, and I click on one of the missions here, it's going to ask me to pick some modifiers right here. These modifiers basically increase your score that you get from killing enemies, which is something new to hard mode. And that'll basically increase your chance of getting certain pieces of gear that have low percentages. Like something like this right here, the Glacial Cloud probably has like a 2% chance to drop. And if I were to max out all those options over there, these modifiers right here, it might increase it to like a 5% drop. I'm just talking out my ass right here. I don't know if that's for certain if it'd be 5%, but I'm just saying overall, these modifiers increase the chances of certain things dropping. Now, what I don't like about this, and it's probably going to be a huge turnoff for people, and is what has caused me to stop playing the game, is that you have the option to do start private operation, but there is no start public operation for hard mode. And seeing as how you're going to spend a lot of time in the in-game grinding these dungeons and these things, and some of these enemies, especially ones with the orbs whenever you get to bosses, take quite a bit of time and are very tanky. You're going to find yourself dying a lot. That's going to require you to do a lot more grinding so you get better gear and whatnot. And I understand that's the point of the game, but the fact that you can't tackle these just with randoms is just a big killer for me in general. But that being said, there's still plenty to play here. If you're familiar with Warframe, if you're familiar with grinding for weapons and stuff like that, you know exactly what you're getting into. This is not to dissuade anybody who is into grinding games to play it. If this is all for you, if you like that sort of thing, go for it. There's nothing wrong with that. I just personally think as a solo player, it kind of sucks that after being able to randomly, being able to join randoms whenever I want in the normal mode was really fun, and then for that to be taken away whenever you reach the hard mode stuff, I just feel like it's just kind of not for me. I like the being able to team up with randoms for dungeons and stuff like that and grind out the stuff. You can still team up with the randoms in the hard mode missions. It's just the operations itself, as well as the intercept battles with the giant titans. Those you also have to do solo, unless, of course, you're able to do that, like join up with a friend in real life or something like that, or go and look for someone on Discord, which I don't like doing that. I just like to hit public matchmaking, and there we go. So that's a little bit of thought that I have for the First Descendant right here. I don't think it's a bad game. I think it's a fun game. I got a free 40 hours out of the game, and I enjoyed every minute of it for the most part, other than like the bosses themselves. I thought this was a pretty good time to pretty good way to pass my time, and I think a lot of people might get just that too. In a time where people are hating on microtransactions, I like to take into the idea was, well, is the base game fun? Is it something you complete solo without having to spend any money? And how far do I have to go out of my way to not spend $1? And I feel honestly that you don't have to try very hard to spend any money on this game whatsoever. If you don't want to spend any money on it, don't spend any money, because you don't have to. Not all the way through the normal mode. If you're just looking for something to shoot enemies with and just like mindlessly kill enemies, this is a pretty good way to get through all of that. So that being said, if you like the content and you want to see more games like the First Descendant here on the channel, or videos like this here on the channel, make sure you like and subscribe and comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on the game. Are you in the same boat with me? Do you disagree with me? Tell me what you disagree about specifically. And yeah, I'll go ahead and read those comments as well. So that being said, you guys take care, and I will catch you all in my next video. Later.